Puss in Boots is the story we're going to be reading today. Hi Serena. It's story time for Serena and all the other children that would like to join us. Puss in Boots by Miles Kelly with illustrations by Kay Widdowson. Once there was a miller. But before we carry on, we need to get Granny out of the way. There we go, Granny. You sit up there in the corner. That's better. Once there was a miller who had 3 sons. When the miller died, he left the mill to his oldest son and a donkey to his middle son. The youngest son was given the miller's cat. "What am I to do with a cat?" he said. Imagine his surprise when Puss replied, "Give me some boots and a bag, and you shall see." Look at the 3 miller's sons. The eldest one got the mill, the middle son got the donkey, and the youngest son got the cat. And the cat says, "Give me some boots and a bag, and you shall see." So the youngest son gave Puss some boots and a bag. Puss went to a field and put carrots in the bag. Then he hid in the grass. Before long, a rabbit hopped into the bag, tempted by the carrots. Off Puss ran to the palace, where he offered the rabbit to the king as a gift from the Marquis of Crabas. The king was delighted. Look at Puss in Boots. Doesn't he look grand with his boots on? The next day, Puss said to the miller's son, "Come to the river and help me fish." Puss knew the king would be driving by in his carriage. "Quick, get into the water," said Puss. The miller's son did, just as the carriage passed by. Then Puss hid his master's clothes. Oh no, look, the miller's son is in the water with no clothes. There comes the king and the princess in the carriage, and the Puss in Boots is hiding the miller's son's clothes. "Stop!" cried Puss as he ran in front of the carriage. "My master, the Marquis of Crabas, has been robbed. Thieves stole his clothes, and as he swam in the river." The king ordered fine clothes to be brought for the miller's son. Then he was invited to ride in the carriage with the king and the princess. In the meantime, Puss ran ahead of the carriage. He met some workers gathering hay in the field. When the king's carriage drives by, the king will ask, "Who owns this land?" said Puss. "Say that it belongs to the Marquis of Crabas." Sure enough, this is what happened. The king was impressed. Once again, Puss ran ahead. He came to a big castle where he knew an ogre lived. Puss knocked at the gate loudly, and a servant let him in. Puss was taken to meet the ogre, and he bowed down low. "What do you want?" the ogre growled. Puss was scared, but he said, "I've heard you can do amazing magic, Mr. Ogre, and turn yourself into any animal. But can you turn into a lion?" The ogre immediately became a roaring lion. Roar! "It must be easy to turn into a big animal," said Puss. "I'm sure you couldn't turn into a small one, like a mouse." So the outraged ogre did just that. Puss seized his chance and pounced. And that was the end of the ogre. So the cat tricked the ogre. He asked him to turn into a mouse, and when he did, the cat caught the mouse. The servants in the castle were very happy. They had been under the ogre's spell. "Please Pleased to be free, they agreed to become servants of the Marquis of Crabas. Suddenly, Puss heard the king's carriage approach. "Prepare a feast for the king and the Marquis of Crabas," he said. "Welcome," says Puss in Boots to the king. The carriage stopped and the king stepped out. "Welcome to the castle of the Marquis of Crabas," said Puss, bowing down low. They all sat down to a huge feast. The miller's son and the princess had fallen in love. The king offered the Marquis of Crabas his daughter's hand in marriage. The next day, the princess and the miller's son were married. Puss was very pleased at the way his plan had worked. "Congratulations!" Puss spent the rest of his days living in luxury, and the only time he ever chased mice was for his own amusement. Wow, so that Puss in Boots was a real trickster. He tricked everybody, didn't he? Let's have a look. He started off right at the beginning of the story by pretending that these wonderful carrots were from a Marquis of Crabas, whoever that was, and the king believed him. And then he hid the clothes of the miller's son, and he said to the king that thieves had stolen the clothes. There's trick number 2, and the king believed the Puss in Boots, and he got fine clothes for the miller's son. And then trick number 3 was when he asked the men working in the field to tell the king that all these fields belonged to the Marquis of Crabas. And then he tricked the ogre. He asked the ogre to turn into a lion, and then he asked the ogre to turn into a mouse, and when the ogre turned into a mouse, Puss in Boots pounced on the mouse and got rid of the ogre forever. And he told everybody that it was the Marquis of Crabas that he worked for. And they all believed that this miller's son was actually the Marquis of Crabas. And Puss in Boots welcomed the king and the princess to the home of the Marquis of Crabas, and they had a great feast. The princess and the miller's son fell in love, and they got married. Look at the miller's son dressed up in his fine wedding clothes, and the princess in her beautiful wedding dress. And Puss in Boots lived a luxury life with the Marquis of Crabas. There he's kicked off his boots and he's lying down, acting like a king himself. Did you enjoy that story? I hope you did, and I hope to see you soon. Please subscribe so that we can remind you when there's a new story out. Bye-bye, Serena. Bye-bye, everybody. See you soon.